Hello and welcome to the next episode of Out of Place but Effective, and this one being The Island Nations Make Tanks. This one is talking about the British and the Japanese. Now you might think this is the front of this vehicle, but no, this is. You're looking at the front of this tank. The driver is staring right at us. Why was it designed this way? Well, the vehicle on this tank, is the British 17-pounder. The gun they struggled so much with. The gun, my lord, struggle. But the gun that they struggled so much to find. So, the Archer is an interesting tank. Not only because it's designed with the gun facing towards the butt, but with the, well, that it's on a Valentine chassis. This nice Valentine chassis gave it the ability to, well, be forced to be putting the gun that way. Okay, this is annoying, but I can find it. But it was designed backwards for the sole reason of having that 17-pounder gun on there. Crews liked it. It did perform well. It was speedy enough to where you could maneuver it pretty well. As you can see, it turns pretty well when not going uphill. Well, and the gun had enough of ability, and generally this would be an ambush vehicle. So it'd be sitting behind the main armor of people and kind of sit there quietly while in a bush and just engage, much like the German modders did. That tank's out of the fight. Alright, for the most part. What else did this 17-pounder manage to make it on? Well, it made it on a lot of things. The main one that we know is the Sherman Firefly. The Sherman Firefly was the main tank that got this 17-pounder because, well, it's a Sherman. Why wouldn't we? Because the Archer was also a stopgap for the Achilles, being an American M10. The M10s were in short supply because the Americans were taking most of them. There's actually only one thing wrong with this nice, funny Achilles. The 50 caliber machine gun on the top wouldn't actually be on there because the British didn't like 50 cals. It's one of their weird things. But one of the other vehicles that the British placed a 17-pounder on, besides the Achilles, the Archer, and the Sherman Firefly, was the Avenger. The Avenger self-propelled. This thing is one effective tank. You've got good mobility at 52 kilometers an hour. The only thing it was lacking is it lacks a machine gun. It also is similar to the Cromwell chassis, which made it their goal. But that's not the only one. We also have the Challenger, which housed the 17-pounder, and the Comet did not, but the Challenger housed it as well. All 4 of these vehicles were the British pride and joy. But there's one other vehicle that technically falls under the British extinction, but never was used by the British or used by anyone. Meet the Sentinel. The weirdest thing being made by the Australians. There are actually several different models, but this is the only model within War Thunder. As I look at my book, we're looking at page 7. This is out of Tanks of the World, 1915, by Pete Chamberlain and Chris Ellis.
Driver ready, gunner ready.
So, this thing was much, like many people described this vehicle, similar to the American Sherman in style-wise. Decent turret rotation, a decent body. It has earned a very unfathomable nickname due to its machine gun port on both models. It looks like a phallic thing. We're not going to go there. But there were some other models. The Sentinel 1 was a smaller variant housing a 2-pounder gun, still pretty small. There was the Sentinel 3, still housing a it housed a 25-pounder howitzer in place of the 2-pounder gun, which a 25-pounder is 88 millimeters. It was a British staple, or British and her colony staple. The one we're using, the Sentinel 4, housed the 17-pounder, but could be swapped out that 17-pounder for a dual 25-pounder cannons. Yeah, I said dual. So that's two 25-pounder guns on one thing. The 25-pounder was mostly used by the British as an artillery. But did this thing see use? No. One of the test vehicles, it did not make it beyond the prototype stage. And it's generally, these vehicles are similar. They performed well and did the job. So, who else is left? Well, there's one other thing left, because Britain wasn't alone. And while some might get mad at me at this, Britain and Canada do get along. Canada also made one odd vehicle. Technically Canada is an island, but we're going to be going with Britain and her colonies or associates. Meet the Ram. Now, the Ram itself never saw combat. Just kind of fix this for now. I should have done this beforehand, but that's fine. It's my own fault. But the Ram was made by the Canadians, sort of, well, because they liked the Sherman. As you can tell by how the vehicle looks. It looks like a Sherman. So, the Cruiser Tank Ram 1 and Cruiser Tank Ram 2 were made by the British. I mean, made by the Canadians, my apologies. So, in cooperation with the United States, it's Britain and Canada. It has a US engine. Has a fully cast hull. Has a decent gun. So let's show you how decent that is. We're around, as I've stated multiple times, we're around 400 meters away. Straight through. And that's me hitting the wrong spot. Thank you, crew, for stating the fact that it was damaged. Yeah. The biggest thing that makes this different from the Sherman is it has a turreted machine gun on the body. Still has 5-man crew, though. But it actually didn't see that much use as a Ram. No Rams actually saw combat. But what did is the other variants of this. A few rams in this configuration did make it over to the European front with a fake gun used as artillery direction vehicle. This vehicle right here, the Ram, is easily converted into several other vehicle types. The main one that you would see is the British and Canadian Kangaroo transport. That removed the turret and made space for a few people to get inside, hide and ride. Generally, these Kangaroos were quite effective and did their job quite well. And were mostly used during and after the D-Day invasion because they were easily equipped with DD equipment. The other vehicle, as I mentioned, that spotter ram or commander ram that was fitted with a fake gun, was used as an artillery units for the Sexton artillery. They were used as forward observer officers. I finally found the word. And the Sexton was the British replacement for the priest, because the priest was a pain in the butt to resupply. And the Kangaroo was one of the first APCs. It was either made from a ram body, priest, or Sherman body. Fitted with bench seats, the maximum number of passengers depended on the vehicles, and I've looked around. I cannot find that number. And it was also fitted with an extra machine gun, giving it a lot of capabilities. But I've been talking too much on the British. We need to change over. I'll go over one more vehicle and then we'll switch. I might have to cut this into 2 parts, but that's fine. We'll see. How time goes because I am running out of time. So I'll cut this into 2 parts. I'll just give you a British episode in a minute. A Japanese episode. My bad. The next one is the Churchill. The Churchill was widely used, but here we have the Petard. So why is this vehicle so interesting? Well, it's the firing system and the placement of things. So, as you can see, there's 3 people in the turret. You might assume one of these people, he's the gunner. You might be like, that's the loader. No, it's not. That's the commander. This guy's the loader. There we go. So, this vehicle was an air mortar. So how that worked is, the British grenade launcher system was just a literal pipe that would launch it through firing air through the round that would launch it. This used the same system. It made this vehicle extremely effective, but also, well, it lacked range. At most, you could get 150 meters out of this. Not 100, like 50 meters. Which means you're pretty much sitting point blank on the enemy. But it's a engineering vehicle meant for taking out the enemy at close range. But going back to the end bunkers, it was a bunker buster mostly. The final vehicle that was odd, besides the tall Mr. Longboy, was one the British never really got to use. I can't look at it, so I can talk about it. So, this last one is the Black Prince. This was made in the late war. The British were making it to be used against German heavy armor. It also housed the powerful 17-pounder gun. So the Black Prince was known as the Super Churchill unofficially, but it was named after someone like most of these British tanks were. It was named after Prince Edward at the time. Now, it was effective. It was done, but it was designed in 43 and 45. by Vauxhall. Interesting name, even though I've seen it several times. And it was meant to be effective, but it still never left Britain because it was, well, an experiment. So, there we go. That's our British boys. Wow, I'm struggling. But that's fine. I've only got a few minutes left. Can I? No, we'll go through it pretty quick. So, first thing we're going to look at this stupid looking thing. Not stupid, it's actually quite interesting. The Chiha short gun. This thing's based off the Chiha, the Japanese mainstay. As you can see, it's housing a 120mm naval gun that's been sawed off. It's effective, it did its job. But this is one of two different models. So as you can see, this thing's pretty much a standard Chiha, just was upgraded with a main gun. It was very sparingly not used at all. It was basically made as a concept vehicle just to see if they could do it. It stayed within the home islands. The one that did leave was this thing, the Chiha long gun. That's what the G stands for. As you can tell, this one's a lot different. Now, this one was quite effective at doing its job. This one was mainly meant for taking out Shermans as they were going for the beach, or dealing with infantry at long range. It would mostly be firing in high explosive anti-tank shell, or APHE. And it could be used as a semi-artillery piece, shooting at smaller naval vessels, or shooting at infantry from long ranges. These two vehicles were just recreations of the Chiha and meant to be funky. And the Japanese used them effectively. The reason they were out of place, well, it's 120s on very small vehicles. So a lot of the time, recoil, you can see by the two recoil compensators on top, those two tubes. Yeah, it had a lot of recoil compensation, but on to the final one. So the Japanese had a lot of different vehicles, but only one of them was found by the Americans and was truly confusing. The Chiri 2. What made the Chiri so confusing was, that's 41 tons. And it's massive. So that kind of threw us off. When we did find it, we actually wrote on it, "Hold for tech intel," because we were so confused. And this never left the home islands. And was, well, experiment. When we found it, it actually didn't have the main cannon. I hate the fact... here we are. I found the pages. I gotta hurry. So, 23.98 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. It houses two guns, a 75 and a 76. Not a 76, a 37. Now, the Type 2 or Type 5 75mm gun was very effective, but also the largest gun size-wise. Because as we look inside, that's a lot. And the reason it was larger was because, well, it had a lot of recoil suppression. As you can see, you've got 3 different recoil suppression tubes, and also this was an autoloader. I'm sorry, this last little bit for the Japanese was a little rushed, but I didn't pay attention and talked about the Japanese too much. But I do thank you. This has been The Island Nation Makes Tanks. Next up is America's Goodwill Tanks. Please do have a good day.